If you love roses and have tried propagating them from cuttings only to see them wither, rot at the base, or fail to root, then let's try out a rather interesting method today. Success depends on many factors: a healthy cutting of the right maturity, clean tools, a well-aerated growing medium, proper moisture levels, and crucially a stable environment. If conditions are right, you'll see white, tender roots emerging from the base alongside fresh green shoots. It's truly fascinating to see a small stem cutting transform into a brand new rose plant, isn't it? Before we get started, I'd like to briefly mention a few common reasons why propagation efforts fail. Some people choose cuttings that are either too young or too old, which slows down root formation. Another common mistake is keeping the growing medium too wet. Additionally, intense sunlight, dry winds, or fluctuating temperatures can cause the cutting to lose moisture rapidly. First, take about 15 grams of fresh ginger and wash it thoroughly to remove any dirt or grit. Then, slice the ginger into small pieces or mince it finely. Ginger contains various natural compounds that give it a distinctive aroma, including gingerol and essential oils. In traditional methods, ginger is often used to create a hygienic environment and to help minimize the risk of unpleasant odors or unwanted microbial growth around the plant material. Place the prepared ginger into a clean plastic cup. Next, add half a teaspoon of glucose and 500 milliliters of warm water. Glucose is a simple sugar that plants can utilize during their metabolic processes. However, when using it in a rooting solution, it is important not to assume that more sugar leads to faster rooting. That is why I use only a small, diluted amount here. Stir well to ensure the ingredients are fully dispersed, then let the mixture sit for about 30 minutes. While waiting for the ginger and glucose solution to steep, we will move on to preparing the rose cuttings. You should choose a healthy rose stem free from pests or disease with a stem that is neither too young nor too old. Starting with a high-quality stem significantly increases your chances of success. First, trim the stem to a length of about 20 centimeters. Then, using clean shears or a knife, remove all leaves and thorns. Removing the leaves reduces the surface area for transpiration. Since the stem lacks a root system to replenish the water lost through the leaves. Keeping too many leaves could cause it to dehydrate and wilt quickly. Once the ginger and glucose solution has steeped for about 30 minutes, place the rose stem into the cup and soak the lower part of the stem for another 30 minutes, following the instructions. With homemade formulas, using just the right amount is always the safer approach. While waiting, we can prepare the second ingredient. Take a ripe banana, wash the outside thoroughly, and peel it. Chop the banana peel into small pieces and place them in a clean plastic cup. Gardeners often utilize banana peels to create organic solutions because they contain various minerals, especially potassium, along with small amounts of other nutrients. Potassium plays a vital role in many of a plant's physiological processes. Place the chopped banana peels into a cup, add 500 milliliters of warm water, stir well, and let it sit for about 30 minutes. As you can see, today's method is quite simple. We do not need overly complex ingredients. What matters more is maintaining cleanliness and using the correct proportions at every step. Once the rose cutting has soaked for the required time, gently remove it from the ginger and glucose solution. Next, strain out all the ginger pulp to collect the liquid. Similarly, strain the banana peel solution to remove any remaining peel fragments. Then, slowly mix the banana peel solution into the ginger and glucose solution. I always advise straining these types of natural solutions as thoroughly as possible. Prepare a clean plastic cup and fill it with treated river sand. The advantage of using sand here is that it is highly porous, providing ample air space around the base of the cutting. Remember, the sand must be clean and properly treated before use. Avoid using dirty sand or sand containing excessive clay or organic impurities. Next, slowly pour the ginger, glucose, and banana peel solution into the cup. Insert the base of the rose cutting into the sand, deep enough for it to stand upright. Then, gently press the sand around the stem. Remember to handle it very gently. Since the cutting has no roots yet, inserting it too forcefully or rocking it back and forth could damage the tender tissues at the base. Use a clear plastic bag or a transparent plastic cup to cover the cup and the rose cutting completely. The purpose of this is to minimize water loss. Without roots, the cutting dehydrates easily. A high humidity environment helps reduce moisture loss stress while the cutting waits to develop roots. However, covering completely does not mean sealing the cutting in a totally airless environment for days on end. Once finished, place the cup in a cool, airy spot away from strong winds and, most importantly, harsh sunlight. Now comes the moment that every plant lover enjoys. Now comes the moment that every plant lover enjoys. If conditions are right, you might see fresh green shoots emerging from the stem. This is a very promising sign that the cutting remains viable and is continuing to grow. To make an accurate assessment, we need to examine the base of the cutting. Handle the cutting with great care when removing it. Avoid pulling hard, which could snap any newly formed roots. And there it is, seeing a cluster of plump, white, young roots around the base is exactly what we were hoping for. New roots are often very delicate and fragile, so at this stage, you should absolutely avoid rubbing, scrubbing, or trying to remove all the sand from the roots. Simply seeing the root system begin to form is enough to move on to the next step. If your cutting has developed white roots and new shoots after 10 days just like the results shown today, congratulations. Remember to plant it gently to protect those delicate, newly formed roots. From a simple stem that might have seemed unremarkable, proper care allows us to cultivate a brand new rose bush. Shape its canopy and eagerly await the day its first blooms appear. If your cutting hasn't rooted yet, don't worry. Simply view it as a learning opportunity. Next time, you might tweak a variable such as selecting a stronger stem, adjusting the water level, improving the potting medium's aeration, or changing the plant's location. With enough gardening experience, you'll realize that success often stems not from a single secret, but from getting many small details right simultaneously. Next, prepare a pot with good drainage. For the growing medium, you can use treated coconut coir or a blend of materials that allow for good airflow. Creating a stable environment for the young root system. Gently place the rose cutting into the pot, allowing the roots to settle naturally, and then fill in the surrounding space with the growing medium. Do not pack the medium down too tightly, as young roots are very soft and easily damaged. After planting, water sufficiently to settle the growing medium, then place the plant in a well-ventilated spot with appropriate lighting. Avoiding harsh sunlight during the initial period. Only when it stands firm and shows steady growth in its leaves and shoots should you gradually transition it to a standard care routine. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope the rose cuttings you are propagating today soon develop strong roots, sprout lush green shoots, and eventually grace your garden with beautiful blooms. See you in the next video. May our gardens always be lush, vibrant, and overflowing with roses.